Well, it's the second week of July. Wimbledon's on. The cricket season started. The politicians are getting all hung up over the June election. Literally just heard news that the Finance Act is going to be brought out as soon as possible after the summer recess. Some interesting stuff in there on making tax digital. So I suppose there's stormy times ahead. Sounds like time for one of my in practice blogs. As I say, we're in July and the fourth money laundering directive is now upon us, known affectionately as 4MLD. And I was able to talk about this at some length with Richard Sims of the Anti-Money Laundering Compliance Company at our recent Practice Evolution conference back in June in London. And he was keen to point out that documentation of risk assessments is a big thing. Lots of accountants are failing to document the risk assessment. They're undertaking it because they're doing it every time they sit opposite a potential new client and every time they start work on a set of accounts each year. They are undertaking a risk assessment, but it's not necessarily being documented. This leaves them open to some fairly horrendous fines and penalties. So all I can say is, for goodness sake, money laundering is not just about client verification and all that. Risk assessment is a massive part of it, and you are doing it, but some of you are just not writing it down. So please remember, document that risk assessment. At our recent Practice Evolution conference, which was held in London about the middle of June, we were all able to listen to a great presentation by Seb Maley of Kudos Contractor concerning IR35 issues and matters pertaining to employment status, which went down very, very well with the audience. And I raised the point with him that the wretched employment status service tool, or the ESS tool, which is supposed to be the thing that we can all turn to give us some form of comfort whether we are deciding if a contract is within or outside of the IR35 regulations. As I said to Seb at the time, the wretched thing is constantly changing. Or is it me? Every time I seem to go and look at it, it seems to be slightly different again. And he agreed with me. And in fact, most contractors have pointed this out, that the ESS tool is constantly changing, which makes it incredibly difficult for anybody to make any considered opinions regarding a contract. Because if they go with the same conditions at one time, will the tool give one answer? And then if they go 2 weeks later, will it give a different answer? Surely it's time for the powers to be to settle on this issue once and for all. And if they're going to put a tool out, then really it should be right, and it should be right for a considerable period of time. Or if you do make amendments, it must be pointed out when the amendments were made, and point out that if necessary, you may have to go back and recheck the contract that previously was okay if you'd done it a few weeks or so ago. Not much more you can add, really. Well, as I say, it's the second week of July. What's been happening in the world of MTD? Well, as I said in the introduction, we've literally just had the news that the government are going to bring out the Finance Act as soon as possible, as they say, after the summer recess. Bless them, they do need a holiday after all that electioneering. It's going to be brought in as soon as possible after summer recess. They've also advised us that what they're going to do is they're going to move everything back, other than from April 19, VAT is going to have to be reported via your MTD compatible software, so you can't file via the gateway yet for your VAT returns. But it seems everything else moves back to 2020, and that's when it's all going to start in one go, presumably including all the limited companies. So everything is moved back to 2020, gives you a little bit more time. So obviously, keep an eye out for the full details to be coming out. As I say, literally that was just put out this morning. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll look into the details and make sure everyone's aware of it. But it looks like we're going to get a little bit more time to ease into the new digital agenda. I'll keep you advised. Well, what have I been filling in my time with recently since my last practice update? Well, as I say, we had Practice Evolution and the conference went down remarkably well. I had a great time there, said hello to lots of members. I've been spending a lot of my time getting involved with the development team at My Firm's App to develop their app called My Firm's App Collect, to enable our bottom end clients, as it were, our most basic clients, you know, the ones HMRC disparagingly call straightforward, because we know there's no such thing as straightforward client, don't we? HMRC think so, but you know, the straightforward clients, as they call them, who are non-VAT, non-employer and non-corporate, you know, basically we would call them our basic clients or our smallest clients, the ones that, you know, have a tendency to bring us in their records at the tail end of the year in a carrier bag or with a little notebook. And by that, I don't mean a computer, I mean a notebook, if we're fortunate. I've been working with them, as I say, to make their app as accountant friendly as possible, and I'm really pleased with the way that it's coming out. And you can find out much more about it from their website, or you can get in touch with me and I'll talk to you about it. But it's got a tremendous data dashboard where we can control and look at what our clients are doing. We'll be in control of the update filing for MTD when we file the quarterly returns, which, as I said, look like they're going to be from April 2020 now. We can see what our clients are doing. We can easily amend it. We can easily go in and we can put notes on. We can be told we're told in advance if the client's got a problem and has left an entry for us to amend. It's really very good, and I'm really pleased with the product that they've developed, and also my part in helping making it, as I say, as accountant friendly as possible. So if you get a chance, have a look at that My Firm's App. Come to Practice Evolution in Manchester, because they'll be there as well and you can see it for yourself. But as I say, keep your eye on the developments, because they literally, breaking news, MTD, they're talking about pushing it back to 2020. As I said earlier on, I'll keep you advised. You'll have heard me mention a few times the Practice Evolution conference, which we held in June in London. It was absolutely sold out and it was a remarkable event. Everyone had a tremendous time. I just want to mention now that we're now moving the Practice Evolution conference up to Manchester. It's on the 21st of September in Manchester, so if you're in the area, why not come along? We've got a tremendous lineup of speakers. We're going to have a fabulous keynote from Mr. David Oliver of My Firm's App, who will be talking why he believes that 2017 is a tipping year, and genuinely you won't want to miss that one. He'll obviously also be outlining about their My Firm's App Collect system that I mentioned earlier on, so you can see that in action at the conference, and there'll be tremendous deals available for you at that time. We've got other speakers as well. We've got Seb Maley, who will be again reprising his IR35 and employment status presentation. We're going to have Nick Lewis on all things social media. We're going to have Patrick Harrington on how you can help develop your practice. We're going to have the fabulous Mark Purdew of Thomson's Reuters, who will be presenting on the very latest on MTD, and I'll be there myself, and together with Mark we have a special Q&A which is we put on at the end of the conference, which is no slides, no presentations, just purely driven by questions from the audience, which, as I say, went down remarkably well in London, and I'm sure will go down equally well in Manchester. So 21st September in Manchester. Tickets are available, or they are already selling really well. So if you want to come along to what's fast becoming the best conference in the UK, get in touch and get yourself a ticket. Look up on the website www.practiceevolution.co.uk and you'll find it there, or check it out on our ICPA site. Practice Evolution, 21st September, Manchester. Get a ticket and come and say hi.